Good morning and welcome to our discussion today. My name is Daryl Price and I am with D3 Technologies, and today we'll be speaking on operational efficiencies. I want to introduce two people that will be presenting the material that we have. This will be Mark Lackey and Salen Benedum. Both of these gentlemen are with Master Graphics, who is a close partner of ours in the Autodesk channel, and D3 partners with them whenever we have discussions around PLM. So I've got Mark and Salen on the line, and just want to welcome everyone to the conversation today. Mark, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Daryl. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. As Daryl pointed out, my name is Mark Lackey. I'm one of the principals of Master Graphics and DataWorks, and we do work with D3 quite extensively to help customers really optimize process and workflow. And so with that, and we also have Salen, and I'll let him introduce himself at his time. The agenda is going to be the following. We're going to just talk a little bit about this business case of optimizing the production process. And you'll see configurable and custom products. And I noticed a number of you on the phone may not be customer configurable products, but I would say hang in there. I think this message is fairly high level, and I think it's going to speak to the possibilities, regardless of the industry you are in. So, and, if you look at the graphic on the right side, we're really trying to help customers tie the different disciplines together. At the end of the day, how do we help from new product introduction, sales, production, manufacturing, tie the different groups together, tie the disparate data together. So those are the things we're going to kind of touch on today. We're going to talk about the challenges today and the challenges of the future for manufacturers like yourself. And then we're going to talk about an opportunity for change. And there's really a new paradigm shift that is occurring, I would say, over the last 2 years that is pretty exciting. And it's allowing companies really of any size to get their data and their people connected better together. We're then going to do a quick demonstration, which Salen is going to do, and then we'll touch on some ways to help you get started. And again, it kind of talks to this new paradigm shift. Is there's easy ways to help you get started on smaller processes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what all manufacturers aim for? Typically these are the things we hear. It's either profit and growth, cost and efficiency, or customer satisfaction, and sometimes it's all three. A lot of companies we're seeing are kind of prioritizing these things. But how does that translate into manufacturing? How does that translate into the production goals that you all face every day? And really, it comes down to how do you get products out the door faster, under budget, and make sure the boxes are checked, that the customer is actually getting what they've requested or what they want. And ultimately, it's again, tying a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different data points, and a lot of different business systems together. So this is a survey that was done by Aberdeen. I think it's, again, resonates with a lot of different people. It seems like this is pretty common for most. Customers out there are demanding lower cost, and they're dealing with increased price competition. A lot of customers we deal with today all have this need for launching products quickly. The faster they get it into the market, the faster the revenue is rolling in. And then competitive differentiation with higher quality. And on the right side, things we run into pretty often are, new product introductions are missed. 33% state that. And a really big one that we're running into more and more is, as well as managing multiple data sets. And we're going to talk pretty heavily about that. And you got to do this all with, declining budgets. So it's no small challenge. These are common business challenges. This is actually a slide we used for a particular customer. And I think it's, very important because when we are out talking, these points are very well understood. So as it relates to new products, getting time to quote is a real challenge. And again, whether that's, I would say this is probably more in the customer configurable product space, but it's still a big challenge nonetheless. Difficult to track new product requirements and commitments, and then poor visibility to new project status. A lot of times companies are having weekly meetings, pulling everybody into a boardroom and just kind of going down this project list. And while that's effective, there's certainly better ways of keeping the teams connected and visible to the project status and the tasks. So we'll talk more about that. On the production management side, running into a lot of multiple and disconnected data and document repositories. More and more customers have multiple CAD systems, they've got multiple locations, they've gone through acquisitions, multiple ERP systems, and the list goes on. And all that translates to poor information sharing, collaboration, data reuse, and again, it's just very, very common. We'll be talking on how to fix that. Manual and disconnected inconsistent process. You know, one thing we run into is customers like yourself, they have very solid process. It's mapped out well, it's very relevant, it's current. The problem is it's just manual. And so how do we help you automate that more effectively? And then as it relates to quality, cost, and risk, you know, tribal knowledge is what's driving a lot of decisions. And a lot of time that tribal knowledge is on demand. You know, it happens at the point of a problem. And a lot of that tribal knowledge is walking out the door. And so how do we get that knowledge into a more consistent process? And then again, you know, at the bottom, it kind of translates to the multiple document repositories, but manual ERP data, just a lot of customers are struggling with this data in ERP and how to make the best use of it within their overall process. So these are the common challenges we run into and we hear. And so if you look at, again, this is more on that production side of things, but I think it'll make sense to everybody. Sales, engineering, manufacturing, all have their individual disciplines, all individual processes that they have. The challenge is getting the data and the process and the tasks assigned horizontally. And you look at this you know, leaky pipe. You know, anytime there's a leak in the pipeline of that information, it's causing time, delays, quality, all these things. So there's a process layer at the top, and then there's this technology layer in the middle. And so sales, often using some form of a CRM system. In engineering, they're using some form of a PDM system or multiple PDM systems. And on the right, you know, manufacturing, procurement, and disciplines like that are using, again, an ERP system or multiple ERP systems. And a lot of times those things are not connected. And so getting things out the door in a timely fashion, this is where the problems really occur. And so, you know, it's how do you help manage the people, process, and this technology layer? And so the world looks probably a little bit more like this. You know, each of the individual entities within the organization try to do the best with what they have. And there's a lot of great technology out there. People use it. But what this does is it just perpetuates more of these islands of information. And so you can see at the bottom, I mean, these are very common things that we run into, and they're just not connected, and they are very manual in nature, and they're basically point-in-time documents, which really impact security and quality of revisions and things like this. So again, probably resonates with most of you on the phone. So it is a complex problem, and I don't want to understate that. But again, it really isn't. When you really think of breaking it down into how can we help you, some really basic things that we can do, and that can have an enormous impact on your business. Like I've been talking about, it's really connecting people and teams together with accurate information. It's taking the process that might be manual and standardizing it and automating it into workflows that actually get tasks assigned, and which then produce the visibility and the accountability of your information. And whether that's on a project, a product, you know, the entire enterprise, you know, that remains to be seen for each of you. But it's absolutely a must. And lastly, it's about integrating the data. And again, so many times there's these houses of silos. And so how do we help you break those silos and walls down and make it more effective? Doing so, though, and this is, if anybody's seen this Aberdeen report. This happens to be one from April 2015. The best-in-class customers, the customers that are doing this, are seeing significant improvements in visibility, accuracy, time to information, and time to decision. And those things are absolutely hitting the bottom line for those organizations. And so our goal today is really, how do we take your challenge? How do we look at your world of complexity, and how do we really make that some form of an unprecedented opportunity? And so one of the things we're talking about here today is PLM. And I always, PLM to some can perhaps be a four-letter word, and it's understandable. I think traditional PLM has not met the promise of its overall intent. The overall intent is to get everybody connected, again, whether it's across the enterprise, by discipline, at a project level. It's to get all disciplines tied together. And so it's spot on in terms of what its intent is. The problem with traditional PLM is it has historically been very CAD-centric, very monolithic in its approach, and very complicated and costly to get started. I actually took this image on the left off of a website, and I get dizzy looking at it because it's like, where do you begin? I think that's a problem, and a lot of these systems are taking a look at this massive process, and it's just too timely and costly. On the other end of the spectrum, from a customer's perspective, a lot of customers are very siloed, as represented by this box, and they struggle with how do you get these different points connected into a single point of truth. So when I talk about a CAD-centric approach or a monolithic approach from traditional PLM, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Most of the times they start in engineering because of the CAD tool that they've used. This methodology just no longer works. The goal of getting the enterprise connected never really happens, because typically they start in engineering, and the reality is it becomes very siloed. It doesn't make its way outside of engineering into these other disciplines, and it causes delayed products, project overruns, slower innovation, customer satisfaction, all these things. And this is an actual example. This is a survey, a PLM community study survey that kind of proves what I'm saying. 100% of PLM, historical traditional PLM, start in CAD management. Less than 50% of them move into change management, engineering management, and then you'll see it just falls off a cliff after that. So the promise has not been attained, right? It's become unattainable, lots of cost, lots of promises that have not been met. And that's really what we want to help you solve today, because the intent is still very much right on. So if you look at how do we, just graphically representation of what we're talking about, I think on the left is engineering. And I think a lot of times you can start in engineering, and it makes sense to start in engineering. But that doesn't have to be the case 100% of the time. We can start in other areas of your business, and we can start down to single level workflows that are very problematic to the entire organization, or very costly. And so we kind of look at something like a PDM system, or say an ERP system, as these systems of records, and companies have multiple systems of records. What we're trying to do is use PLM 360 as a way of engagement. It's a way of bringing these data points and people together, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And so it's kind of a new perspective. So one of the things we're talking about today, and one of the things Salen's going to show actually, is looking at it, if we focus it on a product perspective, if we focus it on a product or product line, how you want to look at it, how do we help you eliminate the silos as it relates to that workflow and getting that out the door? And how do we help you with time to value? So it includes integration of information for new product introduction, sales, production engineering, planning, manufacturing, etc. It's how do we look at starting to build this workflow out to get people connected. Now, you don't have to start all of this at once. we can start where the biggest pain is, and we can start migrating forward over time. You know, one of the things, it's just kind of looking at a product life cycle. The top layer is kind of this new product introduction, and it's kind of got its own life cycle in and of itself, and we're running into a lot of customers that have this challenge. So that's one aspect of it. Then once, you know, more of these configurable types of customers, you go through this quote and quote automation, quote submittal, the sales process, and there's this dance between sales and engineering and this back and forth and customer requirements and trying to get this into production. One of the things Salen's really going to focus on today is this bottom layer, which is the production automation. But I wanted to show this because, again, there are different people on the phone. Depending where your problem is, you know, we can help you. But today we are going to focus a little bit more on this production process on the bottom. And so with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Salen. He's just going to give you about a 10, 15-minute overview demonstration of really how do we help move from the screen on the left to the screen on the right and help you automate some of this data. So Salen, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and then I'll come back and wrap it up.
All right, thanks, Mark. So as we transition control here, I believe you have to make me presenter real quick. All right. So as Mark was mentioning, one of the main things is really a lot of this process revolves around a product or your product. And a lot of the challenges you have is communicating information between these enterprise business systems, whether it's your CRM system for your sales team, your PDM system for your engineering team, your ERP system for your manufacturing team, and all the different spreadsheets, documents, emails, and everything else that happens in between to share that information. What PLM 360 does is basically act as that system of engagement to connect those teams, those processes, those business systems, and it, being a cloud-based solution, it's fairly easy to get up and running. And essentially, all you need is an account, a Autodesk ID. I'll sign in here, and you can kind of see a little bit about what PLM is and how it can kind of deliver on some of those areas. When you sign in, you can kind of see what Autodesk has developed here is actually a pretty clean user interface, fairly easy to use. They've done a very good job of wrapping a very simple interface around a very powerful solution. One of the main things you see here is you've got a search bar. You can search any content in PLM. We'll kind of get into that later. You've got a My Outstanding Work. Basically, a lot of the spreadsheets, emails, and everything else that you typically see revolve around communicating tasks or things that people need to do or information. Your outstanding work basically has that information captured for you and gives you a due date. It gives you a status of milestones, who's it's assigned to, when you should start, and so on. There's also a dashboard here that kind of shows some report snippets of what you've got going on that are really relevant to the specific user, whether you're in sales, engineering, manufacturing, or any other department. And you can drill into these to see more information as needed. You can set these reports up to really show the detail that you care about. The main area here is under this main menu. So under here, as we kind of talked about, you've got product management, sales, items and bombs. We've got this production management. You've got a lot of other areas, change management, supply chain, quality. All of that basically revolves around a product. And there's a process that most companies go through to develop the product, this NPI process, and I can kind of show you what that looks like quickly here. Most companies go through a stage gate process. The stage gate process has several areas. One of the main things that PLM has is this workflow that basically guides you through this process. So here you can kind of see this product development process. You can customize this workflow to be whatever you need. This is a typical one where you go through a concept phase, requirements, development, testing, control run, pilot run, production, and then you go into obsolete. Most companies, regardless of the type of product they make, go through this process. The type of product I'm referring to are either a make to stock or build to stock for conventional products, or some sort of make to order product, whether it's engineered order, assembled order, you name it to order. They still have to develop that product, define the rules on if it's a make to order product, the rules on how it can be configured, and all that can go through the product development process. Basically, the output of that is a hierarchy of product families, product lines, and essentially products that are what you sell. As we go into the products workspace, we've got a couple defined here, not too many, but these, what we're focusing on here are configurable make-to-order products, and a lot of that relates to some sort of production. So once the order is received, it's not a stock product, so somebody has to review the order, maybe update some documentation, some designs, create that configurable model in engineering, do some planning for production. All of those can be configured here to support basically some basic information on for this specific product. Again, we're looking at here is a conveyor belt, a specific conveyor belt, a V-belt. Basically, we've got some default times here that says, okay, that it takes about a day for planning. This one doesn't have to go through engineering. It takes about a day to go through design, operations, and you can kind of see the total lead time basically to get this product out the door, this configurable product out the door, is about 8 days. We've also got a template here that will show us basically the basic team of people that typically go through this process and are involved in completing each custom product that group might make. And this can be configured to support whatever you need. In this case, we might go through an engineering review, a failure analysis, review the configuration, run some automation if you've got some design automation, update part models, and so on. You can kind of see the different tasks that are typically required to complete this product. As we go back to the product information, you can see it's got some basic information that we might care about, the general information. You might put a marketing image on there. You've got some attachments that you could put on there. This product could have a bill of material. In this case, it's a fairly simple bill of material. With some basic information, you could also have costing information in there that rolls up that relates to your sales team, so they know how much to sell your product for, what the basic cost and price would be. Once you have your product, sales will go through, and typically you've got a CRM system that captures quotes and orders. We put this in here just to kind of show the relationship. Basically, you've got start out as a quote. The quote might contain, I'll go into one that's open here, might contain several line items, basic information about the customer, whatever it might be. Go back to one that has a line item on it. So your line items would basically be the products or configurable products that you're putting together for this custom solution, this custom product. In this case, it's again a fairly simple one. Here we've got a motor drive and a belt. These could be standard products you're piecing together for a kind of configured order solution, or they could be configurable products that you're engineering once the order is received. Either way, once you have a quote, we've got a workflow here. that basically would mimic or exist in your CRM system. It starts as open, gets submitted to the customer approves it, you close it as one. At that point, that quote becomes an order, and we've got a relationship set up here to go to the sales order that would be automatically created or generated out of your CRM system. In that sales order, you've got a lot of similar information. You relate back to the quote if you need to. You've got the customer information, some pricing, freight, tax, whatever it might be that you need to capture. All of these fields on any workspace here can be configured and added to represent the information that you need that's relevant to that record, right? So basically, as you go through that, the next phase of this, once the order has been submitted, you need to manufacture that. And for the make-to-order companies, manufacturing that typically involves a lot of other resources outside of sales, outside of engineering. Typically, you've got to go through somebody that's planning it, somebody that's manufacturing it, some engineering or design people. You maybe have to test that product to make sure it meets the requirements. Typically, that's managed in a spreadsheet because it's easy to do that way. But when you manage it in a spreadsheet like that, or that production process in a spreadsheet, you don't have the ability to assign tasks. You don't have the ability to communicate where everything's at, other than opening up the spreadsheet and seeing where everything's at. In this, basically, this view of this workspace kind of gives you a quick status of, okay, for this production order, it's in the design stage. We've gone through engineering and planning. You get a quick snapshot of where everything's at. If I want to drill into one of these, we can then see the information that we've got on here. So this one, we've got a related quote, a related sales order. You might have some other information. Again, you could develop a team of who's doing each area. As we drill into here, the main thing is transitioning through the workflow. So in this case, I'll pick one of these. If I say, okay, I want to start engineering, it goes through the process, start engineering. That one probably was missing some information. We'll start engineering on this one. And as we do that, you can see some of the information on here didn't change. What did change is it created kind of the scheduling information, set up all these milestones that we need to achieve to meet the promised ship date. It also started to create these tasks, and these tasks are basically related to each department. So in this case, engineering needs to review kind of what we looked back before in the template. Engineering needs to do some review. They need to do some analysis, and we've got some basic durations, basic scheduling information here. Typically, this information again is either captured in each individual department or in a spreadsheet, or just via email or walking back and forth between two people's desks. This gives you the ability to assign these tasks to actual people that show up in their dashboard. So in this case, we've got a task assigned to Adam to complete. Again, you can look at the task. It gives some basic information about it, what they need to do. They've got a workflow here that's fairly simple about it's pending, it's in their backlog, it's in process. They might put it on hold, and then they've completed it. Essentially, we can go through that workflow, and I kind of show you what this looks like from a production perspective. Like we talked about, it may have to go through engineering, design, at least go through operations to plan the manufacturing process. Again, I'll start engineering complete, and we can kind of see a little bit more about how this process automation works as we go through here. Now you can see this production tasks tab. Based on our template, added a bunch more tasks to the designers. They need to go through and complete those tasks. And really that's kind of one of the key things that we can do here is automate the assignment of tasks to key individuals that need to get them done in a certain time. And they've got some basic duration and due dates that they can follow. All of these basically will, like an individual will get an email saying, okay, we've got a task started. Here's an email I just got from the one we just sent through, saying you need to go through and review this and complete it. All along, that whole process can be tracked pretty simply in a view like this, and that can continue on through each stage of the development or production process. Some other areas here too that we can focus on, because I know there's a couple people that maybe aren't in configurable products. Change management, supply chain, quality are all areas that are out of the box available in PLM, as well as items and bombs. And really the main thing I'm trying to focus on here is the communication and the process automation. So you've got what Mark highlighted, some disparate processes that revolve around individuals or groups of individuals, and managing that communication really exists in email and sometimes gets lost. If you're anything like me, you get a couple emails, a couple hundred emails, and you kind of lose track of what you're supposed to do. This basically gives you an easy way to track the status, as well as tasks, as well as general information about your product, being a product-centric solution. So basically, at a high level, without getting into too much detail, that's PLM 360 in a nutshell, focusing around our production management process. With that, we'll throw it back to Mark.
All right, thanks, Salem. All right. Should be seeing my screen. So, as Salem just kind of ended, I mean, essentially that is what PLM 360 offers. It regardless of what the information is, where the information is, can be the central hub, the central point of truth for product and product-related information. And so it's difficult to demonstrate PLM because there is so many opportunities, so many variables to it. We could spend days on it, but again, depending on what your challenge is, we can hone in very tight and look at specific workflows. But again, the main intent is to bring teams together, drive consensus and manage decisions, manage and track efforts and resource. And I think that's the one thing, that Salem showed, is managing that information through the process where it is 100% consistent, and it drives the accountability throughout that entire process. It does provide visibility and reporting both for the user level but also executive level, and ultimately it just drives execution, plain and simple. So I'm not going to go into every point here. The one thing I do want to talk about here, drive consensus and manage decisions, is, like I said, a lot of customers have very well-defined process. They're mapped out incredibly well. That is very helpful to us. If you have process that's mapped out and you like the process, we can easily build PLM to automate that. If you don't have a process, like Salem mentioned, so things like quality perhaps, or whatever, the PLM has out-of-the-box process already built, best-in-class process already built that we can also use. We talked about this several times. It really comes down to assigning tasks, owners, deadlines, track status. I mean, this is really a key differentiator for it. And lastly, it's really about the projects and the visibility and the escalation when things aren't on target. And so If things are starting to slip, you can start to understand where is it slipping and start making decisions to execute before the problems really start to occur. And then lastly, just the reporting capability of it's very strong and very powerful, and again, keeping all levels of the organization on task. So our goal in all of this, though, every company is very unique in where their challenge lies, where they see the collaboration or communication challenges. And so ultimately what we want to do is take your business process challenges, identify those, and then match them up to PLM 360 to kind of find this highest value point. You know, it's kind of using the agile methodology where you really look at the challenge as a whole. You build a roadmap, but you execute in very small, bite-sized, manageable, very effective chunks, and you gain success, and then you move it forward. And so that assessment process really is just better understand the as-is state. What is it, the to-be state that you want? You know, do you have the ROI? Is it a solid ROI? And once we have those things, we can really take a look at recommending some improved roadmaps. And again, we can help you look at your process, make recommendations, or we can simply use the process that you've identified. The long-term vision, though, is, you know, depending which department you're in, what level within the organization, you know, we like to look at this over what we call a roadmap, or this process maturity framework. You know, some companies in certain areas might be very ad hoc. In other areas, they're managed and they want to get to optimized. Again, every company is different, every department's different, and unless you really break it down into these smaller bite-sized chunks, it's very difficult to take a holistic view of getting to a much more mature level. As I mentioned before, you know, the capabilities of PLM are extensive. You know, there's the things on the left are the common use cases, the common applications we run into: BOM, change, supply chain, new product introduction, quality, just managing documents and CAD information. Those are common, but just know that there's over 80 applications and workflows that are already pre-built. These aren't things that customers build. These are things that Autodesk builds into the product based on past customer exercises. They vet them out. They put best-in-class processes together. So there's a whole number of things, and this is actually out on the Autodesk website that you can go check out. So we did talk about how do we get started. One of the things that we do, especially, you know, for some small and medium-sized businesses that were never able to take advantage of PLM, we've created these jumpstart packs. We call them Jumpstart 360. It's basically out-of-the-box best practices that help you establish some of the essential workspaces within your environment. These are just some examples. Like I said, maybe the challenge is change management. Maybe we just focus simply on change management. We help you automate either your PDM system or maybe implement PDM and change management throughout engineering. Maybe it's new product introduction, and Salen touched on that before. A lot of companies follow a very similar new product introduction process, but again, it's pretty manual based, and depending on the number of products you launch, it can become very overwhelming. The point is, we can start very, very small. The benefits of it is it's really low risk and low investment to get started. It's very fast deployment. You know, we can do some of these in under 2 weeks to get a process moving. And what it also really allows you to do is it gives you the opportunity to clarify your business strategy in the process. Traditional PLMs, you'd have consultants on site working through all these detailed processes because they weren't configurable. They had to be built out for the future. Otherwise, you needed programming and customization to come in and fix them. That's just simply not the case anymore with PLM 360. These things can be modified, configurable as you go. So it really does give you this ability to change your process and strategy on the fly. And so I've talked about this paradigm shift. The paradigm shift is cloud PLM. It is a new resource model. You know, there is virtually no IT investment that's required. It's 100% cloud-based, built ground up that way. All you really need is a browser. It's a new risk paradigm for the reasons I just stated. You can start in a very, very small, scalable way and build off of success, not hope. And so that is very powerful. And the cloud does offer a new financial model. Like I said, typically this type of implementation is about 1/3 the cost of what a traditional PLM model would be. And so it does offer significant cost savings, and it does allow small and medium-sized businesses to start finally taking advantage of product lifecycle management and its original intent. And so the essential enablers to change, these are things that, you know, we believe very strongly in. You need some strategic direction. You need change leadership. You need somebody in the organization that says, these are problems that we want to solve, and we're going to commit to it. We do want to look at opportunity prioritization. Let's focus on the things that are going to get you the best return for your money in the shortest amount of time and that have the biggest impact on your organization. And then the enablement, the technology is really the easy part. Once we have the first two, the third becomes very easy, and it's very easy to implement, as I had mentioned. So with that, that's all I had. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Again, here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me, Salen. And Daryl, I'm going to turn it back over to you because I believe you're going to be making the follow-up contacts.
That is correct. So, guys, thanks again for joining, and appreciate the time everyone has given us today. You know, D3, we understand the challenge of connecting information throughout your company, and it's not easy. Do you use Vault? Or is it a PLM situation? It can be confusing. But as you begin to think about your own challenges, what we would ask is that you reach out, let us know, so that early on we can start to help you build a plan for what that future might look like. And that way you get an informed start on what's possible as you decide on what's practical. So look for an email, as Mark said. I'll be sending that out today to all attendees and give you a chance to respond. If you've got any questions or want to seek some kind of follow-up action, look for that, and there you'll be able to respond, and we'll take action as accordingly. Thanks all, and have a good day.
Thank you.